Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Evolving Consciousness. I'm your host Purushottam, and in today's video, we'll be continuing with the series which we started a couple of days back, wherein we are going through the different chapters of this phenomenal book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, which talks about the impact and the eternal, everlasting impact of thoughts on every dimension of our life. The central theme of today's video is going to be about thought and purpose. How purpose can serve as one of the most important driving forces for each human being in the planet. Now, when we generally talk about purpose, we find it to be a very heavy word, right? When we talk about purpose, it seems quite serious, and immediately the preconceived judgment we form is that probably we are going to be talking about some spiritual doctrine, a spiritual philosophy, some heavy stuff, right? Because most of us think that purpose is only for the people who are very serious about life. But what if I told you that purpose is something each person needs to have if he wants to live a happy and fulfilled life? Now, you might be wondering, why is having a purpose instrumental in being happy? As to what is the link between happiness and having a purpose in life. Today, modern day researchers and psychologists, eminent psychologists, have proven, and there are innumerable researches which prove that having a central purpose in life helps a person maneuver all the different negative emotions, and it's a person who has a very well defined purpose in life is not easily dismantled by all the catastrophes which could possibly strike in his life, and he is a person who is deeply grounded from within. Now, another reason why most people sort of hesitate when they hear the word purpose is it seems that you need to have a very prolific level of consciousness, or you need to be having a lot of knowledge to have purpose, and you probably need to be a legend to have a purpose. But purpose is not so complicated. In fact, purpose can be as simple as just having a purpose to live a happy and a meaningful life. That can be a purpose for someone. Now, this book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, he talks about purpose in great detail, and we will also talk about different people, different authors who have spoken about purpose and meaning in general, as how important having meaning in life serves as probably the most potent antidote for all the negative emotions and all the negative toxic emotions which sort of cloud our consciousness, and it has become the new normal in today's day, right? So let's go into this chapter wherein James is talking about thought and purpose. He says, until thought is linked with purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment. Now, this makes very straight sense, right? I mean, until you have a purpose, it doesn't matter what you accomplish. You can only accomplish something unless it's not linked with purpose, it doesn't make sense what you accomplish. But if you have a central purpose, it serves as a catalyst for that intelligent accomplishment. With the majority, the bark of thought is allowed to drift upon the ocean of life. Aimlessness is a common vice. Yeah, so he's saying that aimlessness is a common vice in the sense that we are so addicted to being distracted that distraction feels normal. Aimlessness is a common vice. If you just look at our own lives, right, most of us probably don't have a central purpose in life. They are just maneuvering through life, through the different seasons. And one very funny thing about few schools of thought which says go with the flow, right? What they fail to understand, the people who subscribe to this school of thought of going with the flow doesn't mean that you live an aimless life. Going with the flow essentially means that you have a central aim in life. You know your anchor, you are completely anchored from that place of purpose. But if you are facing situations which don't go the way you wanted them to go, then you simply face them and then you go with the flow. Going with the flow doesn't mean that you don't have an aim in life and you just maneuver life just like you are not at all alive, right? Human intellect is being given to us human beings so that we can derive value out of it, so that we can calibrate our own purpose and chief aim in life. Now, this is very simple to understand in the material dimension, right? If you are someone who has a central aim in life, you might be from any walk of life, you probably would understand what I'm talking about. Going with the flow doesn't mean that you don't have a direction in life. Going with the flow essentially means that you have a central aim in life, but that central aim, when you face situations which are sort of not expected, then you go with the flow and face the situations in the heat of the moment. But you are completely grounded and anchored through your purpose. Now let's go to the next aspect which James is talking about. Aimlessness is a common vice, and such drifting must not continue for him who would steer clear of catastrophe and destruction. He says catastrophe and destruction are sort of an inevitable consequence for someone who is aimless in life, for someone who sort of considers aimlessness as a way of being. For him, catastrophe and destructions becomes an inevitable consequence. They who have no central purpose in their life fall an easy prey to petty worries, fears, troubles, and self-pityings, all of which are indications of weakness, which lead just as surely as deliberately planned sins to failure. Now, James is saying that the way deliberate sins or deliberate misdeeds lead to failure. Now, when he's talking about sins, he's talking about thoughts in the wrong direction, they lead to failure. As same as that, when you are aimless in life, by default, you are going towards failure. So it's as good as committing sins. So this is the reason why our ancient rishis and seers emphasized to sort of generate consciousness and become more aware, to become more conscious human beings. Because when you become more conscious in life, you start to question your own life and you try to seek meaning out of your life. And once you start seeking meaning in your life, then all the nonsense of this world, which was sort of distracting you, falls apart, and there you can find the source of true happiness, or in other words, the source of eternal happiness. Now, he also says a man should conceive of a legitimate purpose in his heart and set out to accomplish it. He should make this purpose the centralizing point of his thoughts. It may take the form of a spiritual ideal, or it may be a worldly object, according to his nature at the time being. But whichever it is, he should steadily focus his thought forces upon the object which he has set before him. Now, this is a very interesting way of putting the message which James is trying to portray. He is not compelling everyone to follow a spiritual purpose, because not everyone is sort of attuned, or probably they are not of that level to have a spiritual purpose, and James says that is perfectly fine. Now, purpose need not always be spiritual. Purpose can also have material ramifications. But he's saying that whatever the purpose you have, at least define it, because clarity precedes mastery. Unless you are not aware of what you want in life, you can never actually achieve it. There are no default settings, right? There is no default setting for accomplishment. You essentially need to maneuver it, you essentially need to calibrate your settings, your way of being, so that you can achieve whatever you have set your goals as. So he's saying that either spiritual or material, the man should endeavor to set his heart wholeheartedly and all his thought forces upon the object. He should make this purpose a supreme duty and should devote himself to its attainments, not allowing his thoughts to wander away into ephemeral fancies, longings, and imagination. Now, the word ephemeral means short-lived. Now, most of us, we get dragged, we get so distracted with distractions, right? The longings, the sensations, the need for sense gratification. These are the things which sort of are very commonly known to deviate us from our central purpose. Now, to put it very simply, right, to give you a very practical example, suppose you are a student and you need to study for a very long period of time, and you have a central goal that you need to achieve a certain grade. Now, in the process, you might see some of your friends who probably are enjoying their time, and you will sort of feel distracted that they are having such a nice time, but look at me, I'm just going through this drudgery of studying. Now, this is a very simple example for you to understand so that you can draw a meaning out of it. Now, if he is completely devoted to his purpose, is completely devoted to his aim, he will not give in to that particular temptation which will arise looking at his friends. Now, this is also the reason why it is said that association is very important. The kind of people you associate with is extremely important, because the kind of people you associate with, that decides your desires, and the desires are essentially what you're striving for. Now, I know it's a bit of a different tangent I'm going into, but essentially understand this: association equates to desires. If you are associating with people who are alcoholic, sooner or later, even though you are someone who is not accustomed to drinking alcohol, you will develop a tendency, an attraction towards drinking alcohol. Now, the other extreme end of it, if you are someone who sort of is surrounded with good books, good literature, and good upbringing, or sources which sort of enlighten you with divine wisdom, automatically your desires are purified, and automatically your endeavors are more worthwhile, and your endeavors are going towards a fruitful and a worthy purpose. You automatically chase a worthy purpose. Now, coming back to our content of this particular book. Now, he says this is the royal road to self-control and true concentration of thought. Now, most of us struggle with bad habits. The reason being that we don't understand the foundation of self-control. Self-control cannot be forcefully exercised. Self-control needs a compelling purpose. When you have a purpose, when you know your clearly defined objective, you will automatically sacrifice your instant gratification needs, and you will focus on what is needed for you to achieve that purpose. As I gave the example of the student who is preparing for his exams, and he knows he needs not to give in to the temptation of enjoying when he actually needs to study. And this is a very simple and a gross example to understand this particular concept. Those who are not prepared for the apprehension of a great purpose should fix their thoughts upon the faultless performance of their duty. Now, this is a beautiful point he's emphasizing. He's saying, now, not everyone can think of a great purpose, right? And it is perfectly fine. But he says, for those folks, they need to focus on the faultless performance on every small act, right? Every small act can be made faultless, no matter how insignificant the task may appear. Essentially, there is no insignificant task. Every task, no matter how small it might seem for the superficial ego, essentially every task is divine. It only depends upon the person who is executing that task. And he says, if you focus your attention upon the faultless performance of the duty, only in this way can thoughts be gathered and focused, and resolution and energy be developed, which being done, there is nothing which will not be accomplished. He says, strength grows with purpose. The weakest soul, knowing its own weakness and believing this truth, that strength can only be developed by effort and practice, will thus, believing at once, begin to exert itself, and adding effort to effort, patience to patience, and strength to strength, will never cease to develop, and will at last grow divinely strong. As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking. Now, he gives an example of the physical fitness, right? If you want to build the right amount of strength, physical strength, we need to exercise our physical muscles. Our mental muscles also need exercise. If you are someone who is accustomed to thinking aimlessly, then this is obviously going to feel uncomfortable. As Robin Sharma puts it so well, he said, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and beautiful in the end. Change is always difficult in the beginning. And to put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment. Now, he says that if your every heart is subdued with the central theme of your purpose, then even failure serves you. as I keep saying in my videos, that failure is probably the greatest teachers available to mankind. One of the pathways of attainment, who make all conditions serve them and who think strongly, attempt fearlessly, and accomplish masterfully. And one very important excerpt I would like to share here. There's this phenomenal book called Man's Search for Meaning, written by Viktor Frankl. Now, for those who don't know, Viktor Frankl was a person who spent most of his life in a concentration camp. The concentration camp, which is sort of very notorious, which was run by Hitler. And the people, the prisoners in the concentration camp, were subjected to the most abject, evil, torturous ways of life, right? They used to always have certain malignant chronic diseases. But Victor, he said that during that time in my concentration camp, I understood the significance and weightage of having a meaning. He has a very famous quote, and I'm going to read out the quote by Viktor Frankl. He said, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by a lack of meaning and purpose." He said that when he was going through the torturous circumstances and conditions, he told himself, he convinced himself with sort of an assertive will that no matter what happens, if I get out of this concentration camp, I'm going to share my experiences and I'm going to share the meaning through which I sort of gathered momentum and courage to sort of go through this experience. And his complete book is sort of a chilling reminder for us as how someone who sort of survived the most gruesome physical circumstances, which probably you and me cannot even imagine, sort of understood, he is a living example who showed that how purpose can serve as an antidote, can serve as a life giver to a person even in the most dreaded conditions, even in the most dreaded outer conditions. Now, in the last part of this chapter, James is talking about the two most powerful villains for all human accomplishment. The two most catastrophic causing emotions which sort of impede as human beings to achieve anything, to have a purpose, right? He says doubts and fears should be rigorously excluded. They are disintegrating elements which break up the straight line of effort, rendering it crooked, ineffectual, useless. Thoughts of doubt and fear never accomplished and never can. They always lead to failure. Purpose, energy, power to do, and all strong thoughts cease when doubt and fear creep in. Now, this is something which is very common these days, right? Doubt and fear is something which has sort of petrified and infected most of mankind, and it has petrified us to such an extent that most of us are not even aware of what we are scared of. So much is this emotion of doubt and fear, and you need to understand, we all need to understand the subtle aspect that doubt and fear, the reason we are scared of something is failure, right? And the more we give in to that fear, the more the chances are of failure. Once we understand the subtle aspect, fear will drop. Fear will tend to sort of loosen its grip over our consciousness. The will to do springs from the knowledge that you can do. Henry Ford put it so well. He said, whether you can do or whether you can't do, either ways you are right. Whether you say you can do or you say you can't do, either ways you are right. What he was trying to say is, it's all about a question of belief. Our beliefs create our reality. No, our thoughts don't create our reality. Thoughts are just an unripe form of beliefs. Continuous thoughts which are sort of captured and which are sort of exercised and nourished over a long period of time, they transmute into beliefs, and beliefs create our external reality. And he says, he who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. The recipe for conquering failure, or the secret to conquer failure, is to sort of conquer doubt and fear. His every thought is allied with power, and all difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome. His purposes are seasonably planted and they bloom and bring forth fruit, which does not fall prematurely to the ground. Thought allied fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force. He who knows this is ready to become something higher and stronger than a mere bundle of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensations. He who does this aligns his thoughts fearlessly with his purpose has become the conscious and intelligent wielder of his mental past. Now, this last paragraph speaks volumes. He says that once you ally your thought with fearlessness, you become an unstoppable force. As a great sage Patanjali said, when you are inspired with a great purpose, dormant forces within the universe awaken to assist you in fulfilling your purpose. And there's a great power in boldness. There's a genuine magic about boldness. And once you start becoming fearless and you ally your thoughts with that, there is a momentum which propels you. And you stop getting frustrated and disappointed with short failures. And you view failures with amazement and absolute awe. Then you are not scared, because the root cause of all fears is the fear of failure. And once you completely change the way you look at failure, then fear ceases to exist. Then you become a force to reckon with. Now, I hope you understand the power of purpose. And purpose is not a heavy word and something which is very heavy to embody. Purpose is something which gives meaning to our life. And every person in this in mankind, in humanity in general, they are all seeking meaning. They are all seeking fulfillment. But the only tragedy is they don't know where to seek the right things, right? They are seeking fulfillment in all the wrong things. They are seeking fulfillment in mindless entertainments and mindless gratification of the senses. But true fulfillment, they are also chasing fulfillment, but they only get momentary satisfaction. True fulfillment can only come when you are chasing a worthwhile purpose. And when you are chasing a worthwhile purpose, all the negative emotions cannot plague you, cannot confine you from reaching to your everlasting goal. And in the process, you are going to feel a deep sense of fulfillment, a deep sense of bliss, and a deep sense of love within yourself. Because understand this, self-love means that you are living your life with a meaning. Having a purpose is also a beautiful manifestation of self-love. I hope my today's video was meaningful to you, and hope my today's video brought about a fresh lens to look at purpose. And don't consider purpose as a heavy word. Purpose can be a very simple word in every sense, and you need not be spiritual to have a purpose. Your purpose can be extremely simple, and it can be included and sort of attributed to the smallest of activities to the more significant activities. Thank you so much for your time on my video. I'm sincerely grateful for your time on my video. And if you really loved the content of today's video, don't forget to like the video and also give me your candid, valuable feedback about what you loved about my video. And also don't forget to share this content with a couple of your friends. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you wish to receive the notifications whenever I upload any kind of video in this channel. Thank you so much, and meet you in the next video. Bye.